When was the last time you felt stressed? This morning? Last night? Maybe even right now? For most of us, stress feels like a constant background noise, something we've just learned to live with. Deadlines, notifications, bills, traffic, bad news, expectations. It never seems to stop. But here's what most people don't realize. Stress isn't just a mental thing. It's physical, it's hormonal, it's chemical, and when it sticks around for too long, it can start to break your body down from the inside out. In this video, we're going to explore exactly how stress affects your body, from the moment your brain senses a threat to the long-term damage that chronic stress can cause, things like heart disease, memory problems, weakened immunity, digestive issues, and even weight gain. It all starts with a hormone called cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. In small doses, it's helpful, even necessary. But when cortisol is constantly pumping through your system, it becomes toxic. We're going to break this down step by step, from the biology of stress to its effects on your heart, your brain, your gut, your hormones, and your long-term health. And most importantly, we'll talk about what you can do to fight back. Because the truth is, you can't always control what life throws at you, but you can control how your body responds to it. Let's start with a simple question. What is stress, biologically speaking? Stress isn't just a feeling. It's a full-body emergency response system triggered anytime your brain senses danger. And that danger doesn't have to be life-threatening. It could be a late-night email from your boss, an upcoming exam, or even a loud noise. When your brain detects a threat, real or imagined, it fires up a system called the HPA axis. That stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's a complicated name for a process that happens fast and affects everything. Here's how it works. First, the hypothalamus, a small control center in your brain, sends a signal to the pituitary gland, which then sends a message to your adrenal glands, located right on top of your kidneys. This chain reaction causes your body to release a rush of stress hormones, mainly adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline is the fast-acting one. It increases your heart rate, boosts your breathing, sharpens your senses, and sends blood rushing to your muscles. Basically, it gets you ready to run, fight, or freeze. Cortisol, on the other hand, is more like the long-term planner. It keeps you alert, raises your blood sugar for quick energy, and slows down non-essential systems like digestion, immunity, even reproduction, so your body can focus on survival. Together, adrenaline and cortisol prepare you to deal with immediate threats. This is known as the fight-or-flight response, and for short bursts, it's actually a good thing. It kept our ancestors alive when danger came in the form of wild animals or hostile enemies. The problem? Your brain can't tell the difference between a tiger in the jungle and a toxic boss or unpaid rent. So if you're constantly stressed, day after day, your HPA axis stays switched on. Cortisol keeps flooding your system, and what was once a short-term survival tool becomes a long-term health threat. Chronic stress wears your body down slowly. It messes with your blood pressure, your digestion, your sleep, your immune function, and even the structure of your brain. Stress is no longer just a moment. It becomes a state of being, and that's why it matters. Understanding this internal chain reaction, the biology of stress, is the first step in taking control of it. Because if you know what's happening inside you, you can start doing something about it. Next up, what happens when that stress doesn't go away? Let's talk about the difference between short-term stress and chronic stress. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Not all stress is bad. In fact, short-term stress can actually be beneficial. When it hits, your body becomes more alert, more focused, more energized. It helps you power through deadlines, ace a big performance, or slam the brakes just in time to avoid a car accident. That kind of stress, acute stress, comes on quickly and fades just as fast. Your body kicks into high gear, handles the situation, and then goes back to normal. It's like flipping a switch. But what happens when the switch doesn't flip off? That's where chronic stress comes in. It's the kind of stress that doesn't have a clear beginning or end. It builds up slowly, it lingers, and it can come from things that don't have easy solutions, like money problems, a toxic relationship, a draining job, or constant pressure to succeed. The problem with chronic stress isn't that your stress response system is broken, it's that it's stuck in the on position. And when cortisol is constantly flowing through your body day after day, it starts to cause problems. You might notice it in small ways at first. You're tired, but you can't sleep. You feel wired, but also exhausted. Your stomach's off, your back hurts, your focus is slipping. You feel anxious for no clear reason, or you get irritated at the tiniest things. That's your body telling you something's out of balance. Over time, chronic stress starts to rewire your system. It raises your baseline for tension. Your body forgets how to fully relax. Even when nothing's wrong, you still feel like something is. And the longer this goes on, the more damage it causes, not just mentally, but physically. We're talking about increased risk of heart disease, immune dysfunction, digestive issues, weight gain, and cognitive decline. So yes, short-term stress can sharpen you, but long-term stress, it slowly wears you down. And that slow breakdown is exactly what we're going to explore next. When you think of stress, you probably think of tension in your mind. But one of the first places stress shows up is in your heart. You've felt it before. Your chest tightens, your heart races, your blood pressure rises. That's not just anxiety. That's your cardiovascular system kicking into gear, thanks to adrenaline and cortisol. In the short term, it's not harmful. In fact, it's useful. Your heart pumping faster sends more blood to your muscles and brain so you can act fast. It's a survival tool. But when stress becomes constant, that temporary response turns into a chronic strain on your heart. Here's how it works. Every time you're stressed, your body releases hormones that narrow your blood vessels and increase your heart rate. Your blood pressure goes up. Your body is trying to stay ready for danger, even when there's no real threat. Over time, this starts to wear out your arteries. The walls become damaged. Inflammation builds. Fatty deposits form more easily. This is how plaque starts to clog your blood vessels, a process called atherosclerosis. And that's a major risk factor for heart attacks and strokes. In fact, chronic stress has been linked to hypertension, irregular heartbeat, and even sudden cardiac events. It doesn't always happen dramatically. Often it builds slowly and silently until one day it doesn't. And here's something else to consider. When people are stressed, they're more likely to engage in behaviors that hurt their heart, like smoking, drinking, emotional eating, skipping workouts, or sleeping poorly. Stress doesn't just attack your body directly. It nudges you into habits that make things worse. Doctors now consider stress to be just as significant a risk factor for heart disease as high cholesterol or smoking. And the scariest part, a lot of people don't realize stress is harming their heart until they're in the ER. Your heart was designed to deal with moments of pressure. It was never built to live under pressure all the time. So if you've been feeling like your heart is constantly racing or your blood pressure's creeping up, don't ignore it. Your heart is talking, and it's saying, I need a break. Coming up next, what stress does to your immune system and why it might be the reason you keep getting sick. You ever notice how you tend to get sick right after a big deadline, or how your body crashes the moment you finally take a break? That's no coincidence. It's your immune system reacting to chronic stress. Here's the wild thing. Stress actually affects your immune system in two completely opposite ways, depending on whether it's short-term or long-term. In the short term, stress can give your immune system a temporary boost. That's your body's way of preparing for injury or infection in a dangerous situation. It's like turning on the defenses for a potential battle. But if that stress sticks around too long, your immune system gets worn out. That's because cortisol, your main stress hormone, acts as an immune suppressant when it stays elevated for too long. It starts to block the release of certain immune cells, weakens your inflammation response, and throws off your body's ability to fight off threats. The result? You become more vulnerable to colds, flu, infections, and even slower wound healing. Ever heard someone say, "I've been so stressed, I got shingles"? That's not exaggeration. Chronic stress can reactivate dormant viruses and leave you defenseless against things your immune system would normally handle easily. But it doesn't stop there. Long-term stress also contributes to inflammation, and while inflammation is supposed to protect you in short bursts, chronic inflammation can actually do more harm than good. It's been linked to autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and multiple sclerosis. In fact, many scientists now believe that chronic inflammation, driven by stress, plays a key role in nearly every major disease, from cancer to heart disease to Alzheimer's. So if you're getting sick more often, taking longer to recover, or noticing flare-ups of autoimmune symptoms when life gets overwhelming, it's not just in your head. Your immune system is literally feeling your stress. And while you can't live in a bubble, you can support your immune system by managing the stress that's wearing it down. Next, we're heading to the gut, because stress doesn't stop at the immune system. It hits your digestion, your metabolism, and even your appetite. Let's talk about stress and your gut. Let's talk about your gut, because when you're stressed, your body doesn't just feel it in your mind or your chest. You can feel it in your stomach too. Ever had that nervous stomach before a big event? Maybe you lose your appetite, or your stomach flips, or you get bloated and uncomfortable. That's not random. That's your stress response playing out in your digestive system. Here's what's happening. When your body goes into fight or flight mode, it decides what's essential for survival and what can wait. And guess what? Digestion isn't a priority when your brain thinks you're in danger. Cortisol and adrenaline redirect blood away from your digestive tract. Your stomach slows down. Enzymes that help you break down food are suppressed. Your gut motility, how things move through your system, gets disrupted. All of this can lead to symptoms like indigestion, bloating, cramping, nausea, diarrhea, or constipation. If you suffer from something like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic stress can make symptoms much worse. In fact, stress is considered one of the biggest triggers for flare-ups. But it doesn't stop at digestion. Stress also affects your metabolism and your relationship with food. When cortisol stays elevated for too long, it increases your cravings, especially for sugar, salt, and fat. These comfort foods trigger feel-good brain chemicals like dopamine, giving you temporary relief. But over time, this turns into stress eating, weight gain, and insulin resistance. Cortisol also encourages fat storage, particularly around your abdomen. And that kind of visceral fat isn't just cosmetic. It's the type most closely linked to heart disease and diabetes. So if you've ever wondered why you gain weight during stressful periods, or why your stomach feels off even when you're eating normally, the answer might not be in your food. It might be in your stress levels. Your gut is directly connected to your brain through something called the gut-brain axis. When your mind is overwhelmed, your gut feels it. And when your gut is inflamed, your mind feels that too. Stress doesn't just mess with your stomach. It rewires your metabolism, your hormones, and your hunger cues. And now, speaking of rewiring, Let's talk about what stress does to your brain and your mental health. Now let's talk about the place where stress hits hardest, and most often, your brain. Most of us already know that stress can affect our mood. You feel anxious, overwhelmed, maybe even depressed when life gets too intense. But the effects go far beyond just emotions. Stress literally changes your brain, physically, chemically, and functionally. Let's start with cortisol, your main stress hormone. When cortisol floods your brain over and over again, it starts affecting your memory and learning, specifically through a part of the brain called the hippocampus. That's the area responsible for processing memories and storing new information. Too much stress? The hippocampus actually shrinks. That's why chronic stress can lead to brain fog, forgetfulness, and trouble concentrating. It also affects the amygdala, your brain's fear center. The more stressed you are, the more reactive your amygdala becomes, meaning your brain starts treating everything like a threat. You become jumpy, overly sensitive, emotionally reactive, like you're always bracing for something bad to happen. And then there's the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles decision-making, focus, and self-control. Chronic stress weakens this area, making it harder to think clearly, solve problems, or stay calm under pressure. Now add sleep into the mix. Stress is one of the biggest disruptors of healthy sleep. High cortisol levels mess with your body's natural rhythms, making it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. And when you don't sleep, your brain can't repair itself. The result? You wake up feeling just as tired, if not worse. All of this creates a brutal cycle. You're stressed, so you don't sleep. You don't sleep, so your brain gets foggy. You can't think clearly, so you fall behind. And falling behind makes you more stressed. Over time, this constant tension can contribute to serious mental health conditions, including anxiety disorders, depression, burnout, and even PTSD. And it's not just your thoughts, it's your chemistry. Chronic stress changes the balance of neurotransmitters in your brain, like serotonin and dopamine, the very chemicals that help you feel happy, motivated, and balanced. So if you've been feeling stuck in a loop, tired but wired, overwhelmed but unmotivated, emotionally numb or on edge, it's not weakness, it's not failure, it's your brain under stress overload. But the good news, brains are adaptable. Once you reduce the stress, healing can begin. Up next, how stress throws off your hormones and what that means for your reproductive health and energy levels. Let's talk hormones, because stress doesn't just affect your mood and memory. It reaches into your entire hormonal system, including your reproductive health and sexual function. When your body is constantly producing cortisol, it starts to interfere with other hormones that keep your system in balance. And the first area to take a hit, your reproductive system. In women, chronic stress can disrupt the delicate balance of estrogen and progesterone. That can lead to irregular periods, more painful cramps, or even missed cycles entirely. For those trying to conceive, it can affect fertility by interrupting ovulation or lowering the chance of implantation. In men, long-term stress can reduce testosterone levels, leading to lower sperm count, less energy, and a decrease in libido. And for all genders, stress can contribute to sexual dysfunction, including low desire, difficulty becoming aroused, or trouble reaching orgasm. Why? Because again, your body prioritizes survival, and when it thinks you're in danger, whether physically or emotionally, it puts things like reproduction and sex on the back burner. Even pregnancy isn't immune. High stress levels during pregnancy can affect both the parent and the developing baby, potentially increasing the risk of premature birth or developmental issues. So if you've been wondering why your energy is low, your cycle is off, or your sex drive has disappeared, it might not be hormones alone. It might be stress disrupting your hormonal system from the top down. When stress takes over, your body starts sacrificing long-term health for short-term survival. But recognizing this is the first step to regaining balance. Next, let's talk about what happens when this kind of stress goes unchecked for months or even years, and how it contributes to chronic illness. Now that we've looked at how stress affects individual systems in the body, let's zoom out. Because when stress becomes chronic, when your body is stuck in survival mode day after day, it doesn't just cause symptoms. It lays the foundation for serious, long-term illness. Let's start with the obvious: heart disease. We've already talked about how stress raises blood pressure and damages blood vessels. Over time, that can lead to atherosclerosis, heart attacks, and strokes. Doctors now recognize chronic stress as a major risk factor, right up there with smoking and poor diet. Next, there's type 2 diabetes. Cortisol raises your blood sugar during stress, which is fine in the short term. But if your cortisol levels stay high, your cells stop responding to insulin properly. This leads to insulin resistance, a major contributor to type 2 diabetes. Then there's obesity, especially belly fat. Chronic stress drives up appetite, especially for high-fat, high-sugar foods. Combine that with metabolic slowdown and disrupted sleep, and your body becomes more likely to store fat rather than burn it. But it doesn't stop there. Chronic stress and inflammation are also being studied as contributors to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Constant inflammation in the brain can damage neurons and impair memory over time. And while stress doesn't directly cause cancer, it may affect how cancer develops or progresses, especially through its effects on the immune system and inflammation. In other words, stress doesn't just make you feel unwell in the moment. It's a multiplier, worsening whatever risks are already present in your body. It makes the bad worse and the vulnerable even more fragile. And the toughest part? Most people don't realize stress is the root of their health problems until it's already done long-term damage. But here's the good news. Once you understand what stress is doing, you can start to push back. You can interrupt the cycle. You can support your body. You can begin to heal. And that's exactly what we're going to cover next: how to manage stress and what you can do starting today to protect your health. So let's bring it all together. We've talked about how stress affects your brain, your heart, your immune system, your gut, your hormones, everything. It's not just in your head. It's not just a feeling. Stress is a full-body experience, and when it becomes chronic, it can silently erode your health from the inside out. The scary part? Most of us are living with it every single day, rushing through life, pushing ourselves past the limit, and ignoring the warning signs because we think that's just what life demands. But here's the truth. You can't eliminate stress, but you can change how your body responds to it. That's where the real power lies. So what can you actually do? First, move your body. Exercise isn't just for fitness. It literally helps burn off excess cortisol and releases endorphins that boost your mood and calm your nervous system. Second, breathe. Deep breathing, meditation, or even just pausing for 30 seconds to reset your mind can shift you out of fight or flight mode and into rest and repair. Third, prioritize sleep. Poor sleep raises cortisol, but good sleep heals everything, from brain fog to blood pressure to emotional regulation. Make it non-negotiable. Fourth, eat to support your body, not just to soothe your stress. A balanced diet stabilizes blood sugar and keeps your hormones in check. Whole foods, water, fiber, it all matters. Fifth, connect with people. Loneliness is a stressor too. Even just talking to someone who listens without judgment can lower cortisol and increase resilience. And finally, get help when you need it. Whether it's therapy, coaching, or just asking a friend for support, you don't have to carry it all alone. That's not strength, that's survival mode. Stress is part of life, but letting it take over your body and your health, that's optional. So take a deep breath. You're not powerless, you're not broken, you're human, and your body is trying to protect you. Give it the tools to do that job better. This has been How Stress Affects the Body, from cortisol to chronic illness. If this helped you understand yourself a little better, share it, comment below, and let's keep this conversation going. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.